All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. How we doing today? It is Friday. Y'all know what that means. It's Firearms Friday. I see Fish and Golf with First Blood. And Trish is with us this morning. Good to see you. I hope you've got your coffee ready to rock and roll. I'm actually almost at the bottom of my cup, so I'm going to leave you guys for a minute with the show intro while I go fill her up, and then we'll do some DGUs. Let's do this. And good morning. So, it's Friday. You made it. And for me, the holiday season, a large part of my business is real estate photography, as we've talked about before. I'm just going to talk to you guys for a minute before we get into some DGUs, but we are going to do some. Large part of my business is real estate photography, and of course the holiday season is kind of my slow season. And one of the other things that I do, which picks up, thankfully, during the slow real estate season, is I film dance recitals, ballets, things like that. And it's a great little business. I set up a little sales booth there, and we get the orders in. And when I deliver a finished professional video product, I'm giving y'all a little behind the scenes and some of my business model thinking on this. And I'm having this conversation because I'm going to do one of these today, this afternoon, this evening, and I'm doing some of the preparations this morning. One of the things I do to set myself apart from my competitors is I don't do digital media delivery on my professional video products. And there are several reasons that I do it that way. One, especially with older clients, and when I say older clients, I mean people my age, right? In their 40s and up. A lot of the delivery mechanisms are confusing and they leave too many points of failure, right? Let's say I put it on a Google Drive or a Dropbox file or a Wheat file transfer, and a year from now you don't know where you saved your video. I don't want you calling me to ask me how to find it. I don't want you calling me to tell me that it's not on the Google Drive anymore because, hey, it's been a year and the Google Drive has a limited amount of storage and I've got a shitload of clients, so I can't put everybody on the Google Drive and leave them there forever. I deliver physical media. I actually put it on a thumb drive, and the thumb drives I use, especially for things like the dance recitals, are wooden. They're hardwood cased thumb drives, and I buy them in bulk and I engrave them. I do custom artwork design and engrave them on the thumb drives. This morning, because what I'm shooting this weekend is the Nutcracker, right now I've got the engraver working overtime, carving and engraving little nutcrackers on thumb drives. So, and for this particular run, for this particular show, I've actually got 6 different nutcrackers. So it'll be the Nutcracker on one side. And y'all, I was careful. I was aggressive with it. I wish I had one finished so I could show it to you, but they're still engraving. And I do them 6 at a time because that's just the size engraver I've got. But the way I've got them done, it's a little iconic Nutcracker engraved on one side. And so when you take the lid off, the split where you take the lid off is where the mouth is. So you get the little Nutcracker chomping action on there, and then the other side has nice scripted logo that says, the Covington Regional Ballet presents the Nutcracker. And since I know a lot of you guys are local, tonight I'll be running the sales booth. Tomorrow I'll be running cameras while Cameron is there in person running the sales booth at the matinee. And then I'll be running the sales booth for the evening show tomorrow and the matinee on Sunday. And I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the times if y'all if you want to go do something fun tonight. They're packed. They do quite a bit of business. But the times, so tonight the show is at 7:00. Tomorrow there's a show at 2:00 at 1400 and a show at 7 p.m. 1900. And then on Sunday the show is at 1500. And so if y'all want to go see the Nutcracker, I'm sorry to say I don't know any more information than those times and dates I just said. 7:00 tonight, 2 and 7 tomorrow, and 3 on Sunday. And it's at the Porter Performing Arts Center on Ram Road in Porterdale. So, I mean, y'all come out. I don't know how much the tickets are, but I do know that they tend to pack that particular house out. If I'm being honest, I'm a little nervous about running the sales booth by myself this evening because I might just have more customers than I know how to deal with. But that's what business cards and websites are for, right? So, I thought y'all might find that interesting. And it's also by way of an apology for the sound of the engraver, which I imagine you guys could hear. I had expected it to be done earlier, but I'm actually engraving these things at a resolution of 300 DPI, so they're very high resolution images for a 1 by 2.5 inch thumb drive, and they work in it. So let's do some DGUs, guys. Good morning. I hope you're all ready to rock and roll. I hope you're all good and warm and comfy this morning. Got you a hot cup of coffee. KTLA, this comes from Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Police Department is investigating after a homeowner shot and killed a home invasion suspect. It's like they found the one Republican in Los Angeles. This must be Kelsey Grammer. or I guess it could be Sly Stallone. Or even, okay, so there's a few of them out there, right? I remember when the movie The Expendables came out and Chuck Norris did an interview and he said, yeah, it was great. It's just me hanging out with all my Republican buddies from LA making a movie that didn't have a bunch of woke garbage in it. And that was, 10 years ago? Give or take, maybe 12? Officers were first called to a home in the 11400 block of Swinton Avenue in Granada Hills around 5 a.m. That's 0500 for the best of you. Saturday morning on calls of a hot prowl or a burglary in progress when the homeowner is present, law enforcement officials said. The officers' preliminary investigation determined that approximately 3 to 4 armed males in their 20s entered the home with the intent to burglarize the location. little correction here for the LAPD. The crime of burglary is B&E. Breaking and entering is burglary. Now, we tend to have this idea of either Frodo going in on Smaug in the mountain and trying to steal the heart of the mountain, or probably more commonly for a lot of you guys, the kind of classic cartoon character in the black and white shirt, like he escaped from jail and just kept wearing the costume and the hood mask, or the trash panda little eye covering with the big bag of loot because he broke into a house and stole a bunch of stuff. Taking is robbery. Burglary is the mere entering of the property. Megan corrects me, and you're right. I'm sorry, my bad. Bilbo. Frodo was not a burglar. He didn't burgle Smaug. Frodo was the one that actually went to Mount Doom to turn in the last quest for reward. So anyway, this intent to burglarize the location, they did burglarize it, and to say that they entered illicitly, this is one of those few places where you can prove intent, because there is not a reasonable explanation for a person to enter another person's home unless you can show extraordinary mitigating circumstances that involve an emergency where life or limb are at stake. A suspect pointed a weapon at the victim, and while the suspects were inside the residence, the victim produced a firearm, and a shooting occurred. Okay, that's obnoxious. And a shooting occurred. Come on, guys. Who shot who? One of the suspects was struck by gunfire and died at the scene. Oh! That's a DRT! Died at the scene! Hey! According to the LAPD, present in the home were the homeowner, a grandmother, and a toddler. Whose grandmother? The homeowner, a grandmother, and a toddler. Come on, guys. Use your words. Was it his mom? Was it her mom? Was it the toddler's grandmother? Right? Does the toddler have a baby? Come on. Specificity, guys. Let me know what's going on. Video shows a homeowner being detained following a deadly shooting during a home invasion in Granada Hills. Video shows a male homeowner. We got a he. There's some gender there. Homeowner being detained by police during the initial investigation, though it is not known if he faces charges. I would not be at all surprised to learn that this guy faced charges just because it's LA. And if there's anything we know about Democrats, other than they command California like a second North Korean republic, the overwhelming tendency of the left, and most especially of the district attorneys on the left, who are appointed by radical leftists and funded by George Soros organizations, is that they take an extraordinarily soft stance on crime, and they take that stance most especially if the criminal happens to be other than a straight white male. If you can pull out any kind of victim card, it's essentially a get-out-of-jail-free card nowadays, especially in one of these Soros-funded districts. So I would not be surprised to learn in the future, assuming we get any follow-up on this case, that the homeowner is charged with something, possibly even manslaughter, right? They may find it difficult to prove murder one in a case that's so clearly a case of home defense, self-defense, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to hear them charge him with something up to and including manslaughter. But of course, the facts as reported here seem to suggest that, frankly, the job of the police in this circumstance should not include any investigation at all once it is established that it is the homeowner that fired, and it is people who are not the homeowner, residents, friends, family, associates, people unknown to the homeowner, without permission to enter the home, and most especially in this case where it's already showed us clearly that the assailants, the burglars, the criminals, were armed and used that force of arms to threaten the life of the homeowner. Once those facts are established, your investigation is done and you need to leave that man alone. He has just been the victim of a crime, and only through his own grit, determination, and exercise of constitutionally protected liberties was he able to survive what was likely to have been a violent and terminal encounter. And he did. Leave the man alone. Let him put that baby back to bed. Grandmama probably needs a brandy. Pack your shit up and fuck off, piggo. So, I think that's, yeah, there's not much more of interest in that particular story. I think we're done there. Let's move on to the next one. I'm going to tune this one up a little bit so we can see it better. Fatal shooting. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That might be two. This is me getting my hopes up. Here we go. Fatal shooting. Clerk was acting in self-defense. Oh! Detroit, Michigan. Wow. What? Guys, what is going on in Democrat-controlled cities right now, where all of a sudden, despite our knowing that they've made laws which are explicitly, unconstitutionally prohibitive of the pursuit of your Second Amendment liberties. That's two this morning, and we've seen several in the not too distant past out of places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, right, in Detroit, right, Chicago, and we've been seeing anecdotally. I haven't done a statistical analysis or study on this. Maybe that's a worthy project, but anecdotally, it seems like more and more of the DGUs are coming out of these liberal hellholes where a couple of things are happening. One, there have been a couple of very significant recent Supreme Court decisions which have stricken down unconstitutional gun laws across the country. Most notably of which, it hasn't been explicitly stated, but it has been pretty aggressively implied by striking down the may issue rules in several states. The Supreme Court has suggested, at least, that anything more restrictive than shall issue rules is unconstitutional. Now, obviously, a state being a shall issue state is still a rogue state operating in contravention of the law, because a shall issue policy for a state on firearms licenses implies that the state issues firearms licenses at all. So even if the state is compelled by its own policy to issue your license on demand, on application, without delay, assuming you pass the relevant background checks associated with the acquisition of that firearms license, the fact that the license exists is an affront to the Constitution. The fact that the background check exists is an affront to the Constitution. These two things are explicitly prohibited by the Constitution with the simple stroke of the language, shall not be infringed. It doesn't say shall not be infringed unless you've got a really compelling interest. No, fuck you. It says shall not be infringed. But several of those may issue states have had their rules stricken down by the Supreme Court, saying no, may issue is way too onerous. And I can agree on that. It's certainly more onerous than shall issue, which is itself too onerous. But the thing you have to understand is in the may issue states, what they really mean is will not issue unless. And the unless is you have to prove that you're extra special important and have a higher than likely probability of being victimized by criminals. Essentially, if you want to carry a firearm in a may issue state, you have to prove that you're either a government official or some kind of celebrity or a certain extra high level of CEO or something, that you're the sort of person who is recognizable in the street and is known to carry large sums of cash. But if you're just Joe Blow that might get robbed for all the cash out of his paycheck when you're leaving the check cashing place on Saturday afternoon, no, fuck you. It's not your money anyway. The government was going to take it, so you might as well let, Johnny on the block get it. So those rules preventing people in some of these places from being able to own firearms constitutionally have been getting stricken down. And of course, it's also true that across the country, we're at either 26 or 27 states, but the salient point is more than 50% of our 50 United States are now constitutional carry states, which is to say that you can carry a firearm without a license. The rules on that differ from state to state somewhat. Some of them, it's you can carry open without a license, but you still need a concealed license, which is ludicrous. In Georgia, you can conceal carry without a license as long as you're over the age of 21, not a felon. And there are some legal restrictions on the places that you can carry, but those legal restrictions are few and far between. As a rule of thumb, if there's not a magnetometer and it's not a federal building, you're probably okay. But, get yourself smart on those. But anyway, that's one thing. All that last 4 minutes of monologue, that's one thing that I think is causing this, what appears anecdotally to be a rise in armed self-defense in these lefty cities. The other thing is, because of the policies of Joe Biden inviting more criminal aliens into the country, and those criminal aliens being drawn by the lure of government benefits to these sanctuary cities, which have a massive overlap with the same kind of onerous gun restriction implementing major leftist controlled, Democrats have been in charge for 50 or 60 years without a break. So the illegal aliens are being drawn to those cities, and among those people, there are in fact violent criminals. No matter what the lefties want to say, not all illegal aliens are noble savages, essentially. And so you've got a corresponding rise in crime. And added to that, everything that I was saying earlier about the Soros-funded DAs, it's not just that there are DAs that are extremely soft on crime, but places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, etc., have been putting in rules to say, we've talked about this on the show many times before, you're not going to be arrested for shoplifting if you're shoplifting under $900. I think that's the San Francisco rule. They've basically decriminalized crime. Hey, you know what happened when they decriminalized marijuana? More people started using marijuana openly. The number of people who used pot did not increase dramatically when it was decriminalized. The number of people who used pot previously and began doing it more apparently did increase. I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not. I drive around Atlanta a lot with my window down because I smoke cigarettes, and I don't like to have the windows up because I like the wind in my beard. Ooh. And that's true. I don't think I have driven through the city of Atlanta or any of its suburbs on any given day in the last year and a half without being hit in the face with the strong smell of marijuana. And I mean in places where the only place it could possibly be coming from is the car in front of me. It has been decriminalized in Georgia, right? It's not legal in Georgia. It's just there's no enforcement on it anymore. And the usage has clearly increased. Excuse me. Moss says ABC News reported that there are organized crime gangs in Chicago that are breaking into high-end homes using signal jammers to defeat security systems. That's interesting. Oh, I might have to look that up and talk about it some, Bob. That's very interesting because more and more of the newer security systems are wireless systems. They're modular, and you get pieces, right? So you'll have a security camera. I mean, I've got some here. I've got cameras around the outside of the house. They're all battery operated and wireless, connected to a central router. So I can definitely see how how signal jammers could work in that scenario. That's very interesting. So, to sum up that last, I think the reason for the anecdotal rise in armed self-defense happening in leftist cities is, one, their rules are being defeated by the Supreme Court. We're winning the culture war there. But two, Democrat policies have been causing extreme rises in crime across the country, most especially in Democrat-controlled cities. Here in Georgia, the borough, the neighborhood of Buckhead, has been trying to, I want to say secede, but I think there's another word that they use for the smaller municipal divorce scenario. But the city of Buckhead has been trying to stop being a borough of Atlanta and become its own city. And the city of Atlanta has been fighting them tooth and nail on that, largely because Buckhead represents a huge amount of the property taxes collected by the city. But that is because Atlanta is an absolute disgusting cesspool of crime, gangs, and drugs. And that's really just a function of it being a city. So let's finish up this article, and then I'll do the safety brief, and we can move on with our days. On November 25th, around 1 a.m, Yaqub Nagy, 17, walked behind the counter of a Citgo gas station in Detroit. Nagy was holding something with his hands together and pointing like he had a gun when the 28-year-old clerk approached him. The clerk fired several shots, hitting Nagy in the upper body multiple times. When the police arrived, they found Nagy dead from the gunshot wounds behind the counter. Excuse me. A press release said it has been determined that the clerk acted in lawful self-defense when he fatally shot Mr. Nagy. Good. That is the correct answer. And I hate to say it because we're talking about a dead 17-year-old kid here, but the kid made a very, very poor choice. And from that first description, I'm hoping we get some more information coming down here. That first description, it sounds like the kid went out of his way to create the appearance of holding a gun, to signal that he was holding a gun. Remember the old cartoon gag where the guy sticks it, right? You stick your hand in your pocket and hold it up to pretend like you got a gun even though you don't? Well, clue in on something, guys. Not having a gun, not actually having a gun when you go out of your way to represent that you do have a gun, legally is the same as having a gun. Because an important part of the intent, when you talk about the self-defense question, the intent of the person who defended himself is an element of the activity, even if it's not a crime. Intent is absolutely an element of a crime. If you create for someone the intent to defend themselves from probable bodily harm, then practically and legally, what you have done is not different than actually showing them a firearm and pointing it at them. Because you have given them a reasonable expectation that there is a firearm involved and that they should take the correct precautions in dealing with that particular hazard as it's been presented. You have crafted that subjective reality for them, and they can only act on objective reality, which is that the assumptive probability includes the risk of serious harm or death. A press release said it has been determined that the clerk acted in lawful self-defense. You know what? Let's Talk DefensiveGunUse.com gets a top comment for winning the internet today. So, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office said, under Michigan law, an individual who is not engaged in committing a crime may use deadly force against another anywhere he or she has a legal right to be with no duty to retreat. The individual must honestly and reasonably believe that the use of deadly force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or herself or to another individual. Oh, well, hey, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office just said the thing that I just said. So, an individual who is not engaged in the commission of a crime. Okay, and this is just an actual a reading of the law as it's represented, and that element there, an individual who is not engaged in the commission of a crime. That's an important part of that law. A great example. It is a legal fact that the McMichaels did not murder Ahmaud Arbery because Ahmaud Arbery attempted to use lethal force in the commission of a crime, and the McMichaels were not engaged in a crime when they employed lethal force in reasonable self-defense, where there was a reasonable and honest belief that they were at risk of suffering harm or injury or death. That's the legal fact of the matter. But of course, the judge instructed the jury that they were not allowed to interpret the Michaels' defense as a legal defense. The McMichaels essentially confessed to. They didn't confess to the crime. They stipulated to the facts of the occurrence, and then explained their defense of their actions. And the judge ordered the jury to ignore the defensive explanation, which was a dirty trap. Because if the judge has already decided that he's going to instruct the jury that you, the accused, are not allowed to use self-defense as a defense, then of course you would not stipulate to the fact that you killed the man, right? You would say, I plead the fifth. I'm not going to say the words, I killed that man, because if everything after because is going to be vitiated by the judge's order. That was a trap. That's situations like that. That's why that element, not engaged in the commission of a crime, is such an important part of the law. So, it is the weekend. We're going into the weekend. It's not, other than yesterday being Pearl Harbor Day, I don't think there's anything particularly special going on this weekend, other than it's almost my wife's birthday. And I probably need to, I was going to say I probably need to get her a present, but really what it is I need to look at the presents I already got her and figure out which. We have a rough December at my house because my wife's birthday is in December. And of course, there's Christmas. Oh, and we got married in December, and we call it our Birthiversimus. And it threatens my accounts. So that 'tis the season. Oh, Maul says the Army-Navy game is on this weekend, so go check that out. Go Army, beat Navy. And when I say go Army, beat Navy, I mean, come on, boys. Stop fucking around. Get the job done. It's your turn. It's always your turn. So, go Army, beat Navy. Try not to get too drunk. And, don't fry bacon naked. We love you, and we will see you on Monday.